Today we're bringing in two high school students, Ben and Elena from GMHS, to talk about the book Deadline.
High school is a time every adult remembers and every child dreams of. For scrawny senior Ben Wolf, there's time to live until it all takes a turn. This book is a page-turning masterpiece with a hidden lesson on every page.
In Chris Kutcher's novel Deadline, the main character is diagnosed with a terminal illness that changes everything. Ben Wolf lives in the small town of Trout, Idaho, population 943. He was planning on ending his year out by reading all the books he missed, participate more in class, and push himself to be a better student.
When Ben went in for a sports physical, clearing him to be able to join the cross-country team, get more than regulation blood tests back. He has a terminal blood illness and at most a year to live.
This motivated Ben to live his life to the fullest and never have a dull moment. He joined the football team despite not being built for the type of sport, and he finally spoke to Dao Suzuki, the girl he had his eyes on for years. He wants to make every living moment that he has left count, but other issues may become more apparent to him along the way.
I'm here with Elena from a small town in Connecticut. As I read, I thought a pretty obvious theme was portrayed, being those even in the worst of situations can have an impact on the world around them. When Ben is given his history class project, where they need to do something for the community based on the knowledge they've learned in school, Ben decides that he wants to rename a street after Malcolm X. However, his teacher disagrees. He doesn't want him to go through with it. He believes that Malcolm X isn't important in their history, and Ben has no use in completing this project. What would you do if you were Mr. Lambier or in Ben's position?
Well, if I were Mr. Lambier, I would definitely not turn down such a meaningful idea. It could open the eyes of so many different people.
I agree. Ben has impacted society in many ways. He's losing time, but he made a decision. Most people, when they hear this kind of news, they shut down. Ben, however, moved on. Not only is he living his normal life, but he's doing his best to make an impact on everyone around him. He's tried things that he's never done before. For example, he went out for the school football team, where he's only 123 pounds. However, he turns out to be one of the best players on the team. Thank you, Elena. But hey, when you're dying, you have nothing to lose, right? At least that's how Ben sees it after his diagnosis. After reading through Ben's perspective, it gives us an interesting insight into somewhat minor events in the story. For example, he says, the more I put Malcolm X's perspectives into the lies my teacher told me information, the brasher the student I become. We brought a special guest in to talk about him from a more relatable background. This is Ben. He's from the same high school as Elena in a small town in Connecticut. How do you interpret the quote I just recited and or the other mentions of either Malcolm X or the lies my teacher told me?
Well, Deadline as a whole really pushes a theme of doing something with your life, no matter how short it may be. And the great thing about the morals of the story is that no matter what time period or where it's read, it can be applied.
That is very true. In this scenario, Crutcher brings it in against the education of students and apparent bigotry and racism. However, it can be applied to religious intolerance, political view, and many other things. In a way, media proves that this is a valid interpretation because as we are only given a single side of most stories. Mr. Lambier continuously mentions a lack of diversity in Trout, yet this doesn't mean there's no issue, which is what Ben Wolf is so desperately trying to convince his teachers and fellow citizens.
Here I am with Ben. In this novel, Chris Kutcher sets Ben's hometown as Trout, Idaho, as he does in the majority of his novels. The way that he makes this sort of present-day connection makes it easier for people like us to relate. Living in a small town like Granby, where almost everybody knows each other, also relates to the fact that it is a small country town. What were your thoughts about a connection to a small country town?
Well, knowing that we live in Granby, it makes it a whole lot easier to connect. For example, when Ben's truck was a hand-me-down from his coach, here in Granby, you will constantly be driving down the road and notice older vehicles on launch for sale. Also, people put out old things that they no longer need with a free sign.
The book Deadline takes place in the present day. It is a realistic fiction. Some of the issues posed in the book are very relevant in today's society. For example, the book captures ignorance and blindness of a small town with no diversity. Ben's U.S. government teacher, Mr. Lambier, in fact, is quite racist.
When Ben was given the assignment to create a street name to propose to the city council, he chose the name Malcolm X. Mr. Lambier and some students didn't like this idea very much. Mr. Lambier points out that there are 0 black people in Trout and how it is pointless to name a street after a black civil rights activist.
This connects to some of the issues we have today with racism. Although our country has come very far from where we once were, racism is still relevant is a problem. We still have people who don't understand the meaning of equality, and Chris Crutcher makes sure that readers see that these types of issues still happen today, whether it is not relevant where they are or it happens right in their hometown.
Deadline was not a slow book at all. If anything, it transitioned too fast. Do you agree?
I do. The book had a lot of surprising events in it, but the transitions were not there to seal the important events properly.
Exactly. The book would be in one place and then suddenly it would be days later. Didn't tell us who said what.
And when there was dialogue, I'd lose track of who was talking because it was very sporadic. It didn't tell us who said what.
Okay, so the transitions weren't really there, but was there anything else in the book you liked or disliked?
Well, there was deep and emotional ending. I think it all hit us harder despite knowing what was coming.
But overall, I think it concluded nicely and really had a deep impact on us.
Definitely. It may have an oddly threatening name, and the upside-down cover might confuse you. But if you haven't already, picking up a copy of Chris Crutcher's insight to the dying teenager, Deadline, is a choice you won't regret. And a special thanks today to our guests, Ben and Elena from Granby.
Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time on the Danny and Jack Show.